Remember the other day when we noted that $155 billion was sitting at the Reserve Bank doing nothing? That was a month ago. Now it's $178 billion, earning zero interest in what they call exchange settlement accounts. What's the point of all this money? It's the government's QE, or printing money, or creating new money program. They're creating new money at the rate of about $5 billion a week. Where's it going? The banks aren't lending it. It was designed to be lent to small business to rev up the economy. Of course, what are the banks doing? Lending for the housing boom, lending to people punt on the stock market. Investors are having a real heyday at the moment, but of course, small business, that's where it was meant to go. But the banks think small business is too risky, so they're not lending it. So what's the end game here? They're just going to keep on piling up cash in the Reserve Bank while you've got millions of people living below the poverty line? Is that the idea? You'd think it'd be a good thing if poor people had that money. Why is that? Because they would spend it. That's what poor people do. They spend money, and that creates velocity of money through the economy. Instead of JobSeeker, where it's going to be spent, it's going to JobKeeper, where the companies aren't even paying it back when they're making record profits. It's going to the big end of town. Going to gas giants via subsidies for the transition fuel gas. We're still stuck in this neoliberal rut, which holds that if you give money to rich people and big institutions, it's going to trickle down. Give it to the market. It's not trickling down. What we've got here is the K-shaped recovery. Wealthy people, investors, record numbers of billionaires, millions of poor people going nowhere. Rich getting richer, poor treading water. So here we've got Joe Biden over in the US with his $2 trillion infrastructure program, roads, bridges, broadband, water facilities, all manner of infrastructure, schools. What have we got here? $178 billion just sitting at the Reserve Bank, earning zero interest. Perhaps they could entice the banks into an infrastructure fund to get this money moving, to build stuff, rather than just create subsidies for people and institutions that don't need subsidies. Now, so the structure of this QE, or quantitative easing, it was designed so that the government could put the hand on heart and say, we're not printing money. Because if you're printing money, conventionally, it's the Reserve Bank, or the Federal Reserve, the central bank, buying bonds directly from the government. Instead, they've sort of privatised their QE, and they've said, okay, we're going to get the banks, the private banks, in on this racket, and we're going to get the banks to buy the bonds from the government, and then the Reserve Bank buys the bonds from the banks. And when it buys the bonds from the banks, it credits their accounts, their exchange settlement accounts, with cash. And that's the new money. And that's the $178 billion. Like this video if you'd like to get your hands on that $178 billion. I'm sure you can do more with it than the government. Josh, since we last spoke, you've created an extra $23 billion. That was 4 weeks ago. $23 billion in 4 weeks. New money. What about buying a little bit of merch?